On September 16, 2025, Robert Redford, Hollywood's eternal flame, passed at 89, leaving a world fractured. His death was a wound to cinema's soul, felt from Utah's silent mountains, where his family mourned in private, to millions weeping worldwide. Meryl Streep's raw tribute, a cry of love and loss, shattered the silence, echoing our collective grief. This is the story of a man who forged scars into stories. His legacy, a beacon that burns forever. Charles Robert Redford Jr. was born on August 18, 1936, in Santa Monica, California, to Charles, a milkman who later became an accountant for Standard Oil, and Martha Hart, a homemaker whose warmth illuminated their modest Van Nuys home. In the shadow of the Great Depression's lingering hardship, young Robert, an only child, grew up in a working-class neighborhood of bungalows and dusty lots. At Van Nuys High School, he was an average student, more drawn to doodling in margins than textbooks, his mind wandering to the Pacific's waves. At 6, polio struck, paralyzing his legs and confining him to a narrow bed in their cramped apartment. The disease was a cruel test, his spirit teetering on despair. "I thought I'd never walk again," he recalled, his voice heavy. Martha, unyielding, massaged his rigid limbs nightly, her whispers of hope a rebellion against fate. "She taught me strength is silent endurance," he said, her faith shaping his core. By the late 1940s, Redford, now a teenager, was restless, drawn to the raw pulse of Los Angeles' streets. He ran with a rough crowd, kids who smoked, stole hubcaps, and raced cars in Van Nuys' back alleys. In 1950, at 14, a police stop for vandalism, a spray-painted wall near the San Fernando Valley, ended with a warning that burned into his memory. "I was chasing something I couldn't name," he confessed. His father's discipline, a mix of love and sternness, pulled him back. Baseball and tennis offered outlets. At the Los Angeles Tennis Club, he rallied with legend Pancho Gonzalez, his racket a spark of purpose. Art was his sanctuary. Sketchbooks filled with pencil drawings of California's rugged coastlines, Joshua trees, and the Santa Monica Pier, capturing dreams he couldn't yet voice. He sold caricatures at local fairs, earning nickels that felt like freedom. In 1955, at 18, tragedy struck with merciless force. Martha, his beacon, entered surgery for a routine procedure and never returned, felled by a post-operative infection at 41. "Her absence was a silence I carried forever," Redford said, the wound raw even in his 80s. Charles, heartbroken, never remarried, and their home became a hollow shell, each room echoing her missing laughter. This loss, deeper than polio's grip, fueled Redford's relentless drive, a fire that burned through every triumph and trial. "Grief taught me to keep moving," he said, a mantra born from pain. The loss of his mother left Redford unmoored, a young man grappling with a void that shaped his path. In 1956, he secured a baseball scholarship to the University of Colorado at Boulder, seeking a fresh start. But the structure of academia clashed with his restless spirit. Late nights at dive bars, heavy drinking, and skipped classes led to his expulsion at 19. "It was like a door slammed before I could open it," he said, the sting of failure sharp. Adrift, he chose to wander, leaving behind the familiar for Europe's unknown horizons. At 20, he roamed Paris, Florence, and Madrid, living on stale bread and cheap wine. Sleeping in hostels or under open skies, his sketchbook was his constant companion, filled with drawings of Gothic cathedrals, Tuscan hills, Roman ruins, and the faces of strangers in crowded markets. In Paris, he briefly studied at the École des Beaux-Arts, absorbing lessons in color and form that sharpened his eye. In Spain, he hitchhiked through Andalusia, trading sketches for meals, learning resilience in the face of hunger and uncertainty. Resilience is walking forward when fear screams stop, he later reflected. Returning to New York in 1958 at 22, Redford carried a hardened resolve. Europe had taught him that creation could defy despair. He settled in a cramped Brooklyn apartment, surviving on diner coffee and odd jobs, delivering newspapers, painting houses, and occasionally selling his sketches. Enrolling at Pratt Institute, he studied under abstract expressionist Hans Hofmann, whose bold use of color influenced Redford's art. Yet, the pull of performance called louder. He auditioned for the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, training under Sanford Meisner and Win Handman, who taught him to channel raw emotion into craft. Acting became his new canvas, a way to externalize the grief and fire within. He performed in off-Broadway plays, taking bit parts in Greenwich Village theaters, learning to command a stage with quiet intensity. Redford's early acting career was a grind of small roles on television. Playhouse 90, The Deputy, 1960. Alfred Hitchcock Presents, The Twilight Zone, Maverick, Dr. Kildare, 1962, and Perry Mason. These paid barely enough to cover rent, and his chiseled looks were a double-edged sword. Too pretty, directors scoffed, dismissing his depth for surface beauty. "You're inside, but they don't think you belong," he said bitterly, fighting to be seen as more than a face. His stage work offered a breakthrough. In 1960, a role in Tall Story on Broadway showcased his charisma, followed by The Highest Tree, 1961, and Sunday in New York, 1961, where his charm caught critics' eyes. The turning point came in 1963 with Neil Simon's Barefoot in the Park. At 27, Redford's portrayal of Paul Bratter, a newlywed lawyer balancing wit and vulnerability, earned standing ovations at the Biltmore Theater. "They finally saw me," he said. The 1967 film adaptation with Jane Fonda grossed $19 million, cementing his Hollywood ascent. His film debut in War Hunt, 1962, a gritty Korean War drama with John Saxon and Sidney Pollack, hinted at his range. Roles in Situation Hopeless, But Not Serious, 1965, and Inside Daisy Clover, 1965, with Natalie Wood, a dear friend until her 1981 death, showcased his emotional depth. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, 1969, made him a global star. His Sundance Kid a roguish icon alongside Paul Newman's Butch. The film grossed $102 million and won 4 Oscars. The Sting, reuniting with Newman, won 7 Oscars, including Best Picture, with Redford's conman Johnny Hooker earning $156 million. The Way We Were, 1973, with Barbra Streisand grossed $115 million. Their chemistry as Hubble Gardner and Katie Morosky, a heartbreaking dance. All the President's Men, 1976, with Dustin Hoffman as Carl Bernstein, cast Redford as Bob Woodward, earning $70 million and 4 Oscar nominations. His role as a producer on the film deepened his commitment to stories that matter, blending journalism and cinema to expose truth. Fame was a gilded cage. The Great Gatsby stumbled despite his nuanced Jay Gatsby, grossing $26 million amid harsh reviews. "A golden boy can't stumble," he said wryly. He fought back with Downhill Racer, a skiing drama. Tell Them Willie Boy Is Here, a Western. The Candidate, a political satire. Jeremiah Johnson, a rugged Western. 3 Days of the Condor, a thriller. A Bridge Too Far, a war epic. And The Electric Horseman with Jane Fonda. By 1980, Redford was Hollywood's brightest star, yet the weight of beauty and scrutiny pressed hard. "I had to prove I was more than my face," he said. He turned down roles in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and The Graduate, later admitting regret, but his choices reflected a desire to tell stories with substance over flash. In 1980, Redford stepped behind the camera with Ordinary People, a searing drama of grief starring Mary Tyler Moore. Donald Sutherland, and Timothy Hutton. Shot on a $6 million budget, it grossed $54 million and won 4 Oscars, including Best Director. That's when they stopped seeing just my face, he said. He directed The Milagro Beanfield War, a vibrant tale of community. A river runs through it, a poetic meditation that launched Brad Pitt. Quiz Show, a moral critique with 4 Oscar nominations. The Horse Whisperer, where he also starred, The Legend of Bagger Vance, Lions for Lambs, and The Conspirator. Each film bore his signature, stories of human struggle, resilience, and quiet beauty. His directorial style was understated, favoring natural light and authentic performances, a reflection of his belief that truth lies in simplicity. In 1968, Redford purchased 5,000 acres in Utah's Wasatch Mountains, naming it Sundance after his iconic role. In 1981, he founded the Sundance Institute, a haven for independent filmmakers. The early years were grueling. He mortgaged his home, sold assets, and faced skepticism from Hollywood elites who saw it as a quixotic dream. "It was never about me," he said. "It was about giving voices a stage." The Sundance Film Festival, launched in 1985, became a cultural force, premiering films like Blood Simple, Sex, Lies, and Videotape, Boys and the Hood, Reservoir Dogs, Clerks, Hoop Dreams, The Blair Witch Project, Memento, Whiplash, Get Out, and Minari. It launched directors like the Coen brothers, Quentin Tarantino, Ava DuVernay, Ryan Coogler, Dee Reese, and Greta Gerwig. Sundance's labs, including the Screenwriters Lab, Directors Lab, and programs for Native American, Latinx, and women filmmakers, nurture 500 filmmakers annually. By 2025, the festival draws 100,000 attendees, its impact global. Redford guarded its soul, wary of commercial pressures, ensuring it remained a space for authentic storytelling. Redford's death on September 16, 2025, staggered the world. Days earlier, he had spoken passionately of Sundance's future, of scripts unwritten, of stories burning within him. Then, silence. In his Sundance home, surrounded by mountains. For Meryl Streep, the loss was a dagger. "I'm still in denial," she whispered, her voice breaking in a makeup chair as the news shattered her. Their bond, forged in 1985's Out of Africa, was profound. On screen, their romance as Karen Blixen and Dennis Finch Hatton burned with quiet intensity. Off-screen, their friendship was a quiet fortress, built on mutual respect and shared vulnerability. The hair-washing scene was a moment of truth, his hands softened by the 5th take, her surrender authentic. "I was in awe of his soul," she confessed. Her tribute, "A lion has left us." Robert carried beauty with grace, fame with humility, grief with courage. "His absence is my heart's wound." Streep's words resonated globally, shared across platforms, quoted in headlines, and etched into the hearts of fans. She spoke of their late-night talks about art, loss, and the planet's fragility, conversations that stretched beyond the set into decades of friendship. "He saw the world's beauty and its wounds," she said, "and he fought for both." She recalled his quiet humor, his love for jazz, Miles Davis, and Billie Holiday spinning on his record player, and his habit of sketching during breaks, capturing fleeting moments. Streep shared a memory of a Sundance evening, watching a young filmmaker's rough cut, Redford's eyes alight with pride. "He believed in the underdog," she said, "because he'd been one." Redford's funeral in Utah was a private affair, shielded from cameras, steeped in love. His wife, Sibila Sagars, his partner since 1996 and wife since 2009, sat by his casket, whispering vows to carry their shared art forward. "The Way of the Rain," their performance art piece blending music, dance, and visuals, was a testament to their bond and a plea for the Earth's survival. His children, Shauna, Amy, and Dylan, mourned a father who shaped their worlds. Shauna recalled his gentle critiques of her paintings, teaching her to trust her instincts. Amy remembered his patient lessons in filmmaking, editing her early shorts by hand. Dylan spoke of fishing trips along the Provo River, where silence spoke louder than words, their rods casting dreams into the water. Sabile's grief was a chasm, his chair empty, his sketches unfinished. "I hear his footsteps," she said, leaving his books open as if he might return to read them. Love doesn't end. It becomes pain too vast to carry. The family shared stories of his quiet rituals, morning hikes in the Wasatch Mountains, reading poetry by Wendell Berry, and tending to his horses, whose gentle presence grounded him. Redford's life was a tapestry of loss and endurance. Beyond polio and his mother's death, he faced the unbearable losses of his sons. Scott, who died in 1959 of sudden infant death syndrome at 2 months old, a grief Redford rarely spoke of but carried in his eyes, and James, who succumbed to liver cancer in 2020 at 58, a blow that left Redford visibly frail. His marriage to Lola Van Wagenen ended, though they remained connected through their children, co-parenting with mutual respect. Friends like Paul Newman, who died in 2008, Natalie Wood, lost in 1981, and Sidney Pollack, gone in 2008, left too soon. Each departure a quiet ache. His $200 million fortune, amassed through acting, directing, producing, and his Sundance estate, was never his focus. His homes in Utah and New Mexico were sanctuaries for painting, family, and reflection, filled with his watercolors of deserts and mountains, and shelves of books on history, ecology, and art. His environmental advocacy, sparked in the 1960s, was a lifelong commitment. He opposed Utah's Kaiparowitz coal plant, a proposed 3,000-megawatt project that threatened the region's air and water. In 1970, he founded the Institute for Resource Management, lobbying for the Clean Air Act and collaborating with scientists and policymakers. He produced An Inconvenient Truth, amplifying Al Gore's climate warning, and supported the Natural Resources Defense Council with donations and advocacy. The Way of the Rain, created with Sibyl, was a call to action performed at the United Nations in 2015. In his final years, frail from heart issues and a 2018 hip replacement, he left campaigns unfinished, including a push for renewable energy in rural Utah. His philanthropy, often anonymous, included $10 million to Native American arts, voter rights, and Utah's public schools, as well as scholarships for young artists at Sundance. Redford's filmography is a monument. The Chase, 1966. This property is condemned. Brubaker, Legal Eagles, Sneakers, Indecent Proposal, Up Close and Personal, Spygam, Captain America, The Winter Soldier, and The Old Man and the Gun. His final role as a charming bank robber, a nod to his Sundance Kid. He produced The Motorcycle Diaries, All Is Lost, where he starred in a near-silent survival epic, and A Walk in the Woods with Nick Nolte. At Sundance Labs, he mentored filmmakers like Ryan Coogler, whose Fruitvale Station premiered there. He taught workshops, critiqued scripts, and painted with Sibyl, leaving scripts unfinished, dreams half-drawn on his easel. Redford was human, scarred by loss, tempered by struggle. His greatness lay not in perfection, but in endurance, not in applause, but in impact. Sundance remains a beacon for dreamers, nurturing voices that might otherwise be silenced. His films, Butch Cassidy and The Sundance Kid, Ordinary People Out of Africa, are timeless, woven into cinema's fabric. His environmental work, from fighting coal plants to amplifying climate warnings, reshaped policy and consciousness. Meryl Streep speaks for us. Robert was a compass, guiding us through beauty and grief. His legacy is a call to create, to fight for the planet, to tell stories that matter. Watch his films, share his story, visit Sundance, support its labs. Let his echo live in every heart that refuses to break. Rest, Robert. May the rain fall softly where you sleep.
Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more dives into Hollywood's hidden history.